We're outside the premises of Fingal County Council in Swords, where a rally has been organised to support the development of the Metro North project. The campaign, known as Yes to Metro North, has been running actively on Facebook and is calling on all the local TDs, politicians and councillors to support the Metro North project. We're going to talk to some of the participants here.
This is a project that will connect not just the 50,000 people of Swords. People of Swords, we are about the 6th largest town in Ireland. We know we don't have a hospital. We know we don't have universities. We were told that this was the project that was going to connect us to the 3rd level education, connect us and our children, that was going to connect us to the hospital, the Mater Hospital and into the Children's Hospital, that was going to connect us to the cultural facilities in the city, and that was going to create jobs. 25,000 jobs is the minimum amount of jobs. The economic investment or the economic study that has been done has shown that this is the possibility of creating 37,000 jobs. No other project that the government will put money in will get this country moving. There is no point in us sending ministers over to America telling them that we're open for business when we're attempting to close down the door to business here in North Dublin. I thank you for coming out. It's important that you get the message out to all of your people, particularly your Southside friends, to say this is a project that will give a return on its investment. It's a project that's needed for the 50,000 people in Swords and for those in the airport and for the 100,000 in the surrounding area. We can afford it, we can pay for it, and there are banks that are willing to support it. Thank you for coming out.
A lot of people would have the impression that the project was safe given the assurances of the previous government. Am I to understand that the current government is undoing their work?
The current government has, yes, we all know the government, because of the IMF, is going to have to look at where they can make savings. What I am concerned with is that this is an easy decision because you get a larger amount of money, but you end up squandering it on smaller projects. So you might give a little bit of candy here and there, but you lose the chance to do the major investment that is going to economically benefit Ireland, not just build a road here or build a little path from somewhere to other. This is a major project that has been proven that there is a return for the economic development, and it can start now. It can start in September. It's got planning permission. Yes, I fear that the signals that are coming from the Department of Transport means that they think that because this is an expensive project that they are going to, that it's the easy one to drop. But the other thing that worries me seriously is the figures are being grossly exaggerated in order to suit somebody's agenda, but it's certainly not the agenda for the people of Swords.
But isn't one of the problems in that respect that the figures are not being published, that they're being kept secret for commercial reasons?
Exactly, and yet at the beginning we had a ballpark figure of what this was going to cost, and I know because I've campaigned on this for 2 elections, €250 now gone down to €200 because prices are cheaper for the first 2 years. We have sanctioned from the European Investment Bank for 500 million, sorry I might have said 1,000, 500 million. We've sanctioned for that for the first 2 years. And then it is a public-private partnership after that, and the people who are bidding have told us that they have banks interested in funding the money. So the government does not have to fund the money. So there are scare tactics being used in order to say we can't afford it. And unfortunately, people are beginning to believe it. Nobody could afford to buy a house by putting their hand in their pocket and delivering the money. We buy it, buy a mortgage over a period of time. This is the best time to buy a house. This is the best time to build a metro.
The first thing to say is that today's rally was called to coincide with a very important meeting of the Council, which is going to discuss this vital project. Now, sadly, the meeting was cancelled because of the untimely death and the funeral tonight of Brian Lenihan, so there was a change in plan, but we still thought it was very important to come out here today. But that said, the meeting that was due to take place today has now been reconvened for Wednesday. And it is important to register the backdrop to that meeting, and it is the point that Tom made. There is a feeling out there, and we all know that the country is going through a lot of economic difficulties. However, investment and capital projects are vital if we're going to have an economic recovery. And the government has said that 2 out of the major 3 transport infrastructural projects are likely to be axed. Metro North is one of those projects. Now, we are quite confident and we are quite I suppose, convinced in our assertions that of all of the capital transport projects that are out there, that Metro North is the one that has the most to offer, in that has gone further than any of the other projects in the amount of money that has been invested in it. It has gone further in terms of the planning process and is in that sense much more ready to go than any of the other projects are. But crucially, it is the one that serves an area which has practically no other viable public transport otherwise. And the other projects are to improve a system that's already there. This is to open up a huge community that is very poorly served by public transport. And it is important to look at the young people who are here, because this project can get those young people into DCU, into Trinity College in 22 minutes when it's up and running. And we all have kids living here. We all need to improve the situation. This is a project worth fighting for.
I think this is a crucial project, both from its employment generating potential, but crucially in terms of what it can leave in terms to a massive improvement in the quality of life for residents in Swords and beyond. I think it's clear now from the signals from government that at least 2 of the major capital transport projects are going to be axed. It shouldn't be Metro North, and that's not just for backyard reasons. That's because this is the project that's gone further than any other. It has the planning permission, it has the financing, and it's the one that serves a community that has no other public transport. So it's a net gain and can really open up a huge boost to the economy here locally.
The previous Fianna Fáil Green government seemed very committed to Metro. How do you feel about the current government's commitment?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be here today if we thought that things were guaranteed. So there are worrying signs that in the current economic climate that certain projects are going to be axed. In actual fact, we think it makes great economic sense to actually invest in such job creating and infrastructural projects, that we should actually be spending more on stuff like that rather than spending less. But no, the signs from the new government are worrying. But certainly at a local level, the signal that's been put here is that cross-party and cross-community here in North County Dublin, everybody wants this to go ahead, absolutely.
The same arguments we made during the run-up to the election still stand. Apart from infrastructure, of which there's a huge deficit north of the Liffey, the difference between the north side and the south side, to anybody from outside of Dublin, to anybody from outside of the country, is absolutely visible. There is a huge infrastructural deficit north of the Liffey. This is a way of redressing some of that balance. That lack of infrastructure is the reason why far more high-end jobs go to South County Dublin than they do to North County Dublin. We have huge needs here. We need third-level institutions. We need a proper transport system. We need better medical facilities. We have the population. We have a huge population of young people. At the moment, many of them are in Australia, New York, Canada, with degrees, with qualifications. We need them back here. We need an impetus in North County Dublin to get our own young people back, to get them working. They are the next generation. The obvious benefits, not just to Swords and not just along the rail line, but to all of North Dublin. Balbriggan, for instance, will gain hugely in terms of access, in terms of shorter run to the city. Skerries, Donabate, all of North Dublin will gain. At the moment, we're at an absolute critical stage. We've been told, speaking to our own junior minister, that it's a decision between possibly 2 other pieces of infrastructure or the Metro. The arguments for the other 2 do not stand up half as much as the argument for Metro. We've been told by the European Investment Bank that it's a runner. We've been told by our own ESRI that it's a runner.
Councillor, how do you feel this rally is going to affect things?
Well, I think everything we do, every contribution we make towards the campaign is absolutely important. I think the people who represent us, particularly in the present government, we've got a minister from the North County. We've got a minister in our own area here. We've got 2 ministers in Dublin 15, and we need the support of all of those 3 people, particularly when the decision to have or not have the Metro North is going to be taken. It's likely to be taken in September. The more pressure that comes from the public, not just from councillors, not just from the business community, the more pressure that comes from the actual travelling public, the better.
And what kind of signals are you getting from the government?
The government at the moment is hedging. We can't get a commitment from Minister Varadkar. We've been told by everybody else that they're supportive, but at the end of the day we're genuinely worried that some of the facts they're basing their decisions on are not accurate.
How do you think the project has been affected by the dropping of the last few stations, with it now terminating at the estuary instead of further out?
Well, of course in Fingal we weren't happy with that, but if we could get it to Swords, it would be a major plus. We could then work on extending it, maybe pick up the rail line somewhere else other than where you know, areas that had already been rejected. If we can get it to Swords, we then as a community and as a council can take on the possibility of moving it further out into the actual North County Dublin itself. But we can also look at other ways of maximising its potential in the area. If we can get it to Swords, it's a huge start.
With me now is local Green Party representative Ken Duffy. Ken, why have you turned out today to support this?
Well, I turned out today because of the shortage of a proper transport system here in Swords. Swords now have been a poor relation, I'm afraid, on the north side for a long, long time. And this project, particularly in the climate we're in today, is going to create a lot of work. There's a lot of figures being bandied around that they're 6 billion, 5 billion. Now these come from the height of the Celtic Tiger, these figures. And I think there's a bit of scaremongering there. Okay. I would say the figure's more closely related to 3 billion than 6 billion. There's a lot of money being spent already. The job corridor that's going to be created from the city centre out to Swords will produce more jobs. And I think it's time now that, well, I'd like to have seen a lot more people out today in Swords, but I think as the campaign goes on, I think we will see a lot more people coming in behind us.
Brendan, why have you turned out to support this rally?
Well, I believe in Metro North, and the campaign, the rally here is yes to Metro North, and I've always said yes to Metro North, and I believe in it, and that's why I'm here to support it, to support the effort to try and have it secured.
A lot of people would believe that the project has been secured by the previous government and they didn't realise there was any doubt about it going ahead. Is it now in doubt?
I'm not sure whether it's in doubt or not. I mean, what's underway at the moment is a comprehensive spending review underway in light of the dire financial situation that we find ourselves in. Obviously, one of the issues that has to be decided upon within the Department of Transport is whether or not this project goes ahead.
I mean, the presence of a government TD must be encouraging. Are we to read anything into that?
Well, as a government TD, and since I was elected to Dáil Éireann just back in February, I've been making the case for Metro North within the Labour Party. Every opportunity I've taken to do so at the parliamentary party, directly with the party leader, and whatever way I can in terms of trying to make the case for Metro North. We have also, the Labour Party Dublin North TDs have requested a meeting with Minister Varadkar, which has been granted, in order for us to make the case further. But so far no decision has been taken, and until that decision has been taken, I'm going to continue to fight to hopefully deliver Metro North.
In the run-up to the election, the Fine Gael TDs were very committed to Metro North, and there was some question over the commitment of Labour to it. So, are we to believe that the question mark now hanging over the project comes from the Labour side of the camp?
Well, if the commitment was so strong from the Fine Gael side, they now have the ministry in their hands, so let them make the decision. And I'll support the decision if it goes in favour of Metro North. And
finally, what would you say is the chief benefit of this project for Dublin North?
It's not. I mean, the word has been put out there that it's just a project to service the airport. It's not. It's more than that. It's a project to develop the whole region here, the economic development of this region, and it absolutely makes sense. We've got thousands of jobs at stake here, which could be delivered, shovel-ready jobs in terms of construction and post-construction. So it does make sense. The question is now about affordability. Can we do it? I believe that if it does make sense and if it can be delivered, it will be. But you know, I'm not privy to the numbers and how bad things are.
And when are you having your meeting with Minister Varadkar?
It's been agreed in principle. It was due to take place at the back end of last week. Hopefully, toward later on this week.
Perhaps after that you'll be able to give us a further update.
I certainly will, but I expect after that meeting he will listen to what we have to say. The review will not finish until September. I don't expect he will give us an answer at that meeting.
Here I am in Swords at what is proposed to be the terminus for Metro North, and with me is Rory O'Connor, Project Director for Metro North. I'm going to ask Rory now for an update on where the project is. Rory, where are we with the project now?
Well, where we are with the project, on the planning side, we have planning permission to build the project. We were granted a railway order by An Bord Pleanála last October. We do have to, as part of that railway order, we have to apply for a new order to move the depot. But that application's gone in. We expect to have that depot order completed by September. So on the planning side, we're pretty much there. The other thing we need, obviously, is the funding to go ahead. And on that side, I suppose there's two elements to that. Metro North is being delivered as a public-private partnership. So we're looking for the private sector to deliver the majority of the money for Metro North. And on that side, we don't have access. Ireland doesn't have access to the PPP market at the moment. We accept that. But we don't need that deal to be done till 2014. And so I suppose what we're saying to government on that side of the house is we've time to wait. And we expect there will be signs of recovery in the PPP market for Ireland in the coming years. There's good signs of recovery already. 2 roads PPPs have started their final procurement process in the last month. So there is good signs there. And as long as Ireland's access to the credit markets is returned next year, or the year after, then there's no reason we can't complete that deal on time. On the other side, the Exchequer has to fund part of Metro North as well. And again, we are aware of the spending constraints government have. We've been told what the constraints are by the Department of Transport, and we've shown them how, given those constraints, we can still deliver Metro North within the constraints they've set out. Partly helped by the fact that this delay in waiting for the PPP market spreads the costs out a bit.
There are many who would argue that the money would be better spent on a flexible, rapid bus system. And we saw when the Malahide Bridge collapsed a couple of years ago how the bus system was able to pick up the slack very quickly. What's the advantage of Metro North over putting just more buses on the road, which we could do almost overnight?
Well, rapid bus systems have a place in the public transport network in Dublin, there's no doubt about that. But if Dublin as a whole is going to tackle its traffic congestion problems, and remember we do still have serious traffic congestion in Dublin, it may be somewhat disguised by the fact that there's been a recession, but if you go back to the mid-2000s, it could take an hour and a half, and up to 2 hours of time to get into Dublin from the Swords area. And that will come back again when we get out of this economic recession. Now, if we have to avoid that, Dublin as a whole needs a high-capacity public transport network. And that network will have room in it for high-capacity lines like Metro North, light rail, like the very successful Lewis we've already delivered, and quality rapid bus transit corridors. But the fact is, this corridor, from Swords right through the airport, through Ballymun, into the city centre, and onwards in the future to link up with the Green Line and go all the way out to Bray, that is the north-south spine of that integrated transport network that we need, and it needs a high capacity. The fact is, the best bus system in the world can only deliver about 3,000 passengers per hour per direction, and that corridor, all the way from Swords through to Bray, needs 15, 16, 17,000 passengers per hour per direction ultimately, and only Metro can deliver that.
Finally, Rory, we're standing at what will hopefully at some stage be the terminus for the line. Realistically, assuming the government doesn't can the project altogether, realistically, when do you think we can hop on the first Metro?
Well, we won't be hopping on the first Metro for a little while yet. I'll probably be able to travel free on my bus pass when we do. No, we'll be hoping to open it around 2018. If we get the green light from government, say the middle of next year, because we know the PPP market is coming back, then we can start construction towards the end of next year of the first enabling works. We can start the main infrastructure works around late 2013, early 2014, and be open 2018, 2019. And that's probably the most realistic timescale at this stage.
I'm Lorcan O'Toole for Fingal Community TV. Thank you.